I call this memoir 12 Souls of Endless Bereavement. This is a short memoir of crushing grief. I have been in recovery for 3.9 years. I returned to school at Greenfield Community College in my second year here currently, but during my first year, I learned 12 friends had passed away while they had succumbed to addiction. When I was in the early stages of sobriety, I bought a new phone with a new number to avoid any and all requests from my active addict friends, avoiding them wanting to hang out because of fear of temptation to relapse. I regret not being able to be stronger and help them see sobriety as the way, and regret not being able to be a beacon of hope as I had just vanished from their lives into my sobriety bubble. Regretting maybe if I could have just talked them out of addiction, they'd still be here. Grief and regret 12-fold. Since my journey on returning to school, I have had to do so with grief and loss, as if death wanted to defeat me, by taking almost all my loved ones away, 15 in 1 year. I had signed up for the Literacy Project in spring of 2023 to obtain my high set, dealing with a fresh string of loss of my papa, my grandfather, in October of 2022, and my friend Ron, September 2022. Sorrow burdened and feeling a sense of clumsiness in class as I had dropped out in 10th grade high school. I was rusty, and it had been 20 years since I was in school. But like riding a bike, I found my balance and got my high set in 6 short weeks, only because math was difficult for me and took 4 weeks of hard studying to pass that test. But I had surpassed all other tests in 2 short weeks. Most other students in class took 6 months. I felt a sense of pride for obtaining my high set swiftly. It was a new world for me, a changed life. I went from running the streets daily, turned to laid back, sober days of reading, writing, and math assignments. An entirely different world, and I accepted it with arms wide open. During this time at the Literacy Project, I learned that Jared had relapsed and passed away. He was a good friend of my partner, Alex, and a role model for me as I planned to go back to school and help in the recovery field, just as Jared had done. He worked at a rehabilitation center in Greenfield, Mass. Hearing of his passing had been hard, instilling the fear of what the world says, that relapse is avoidable and every single addict is doomed to fight addiction forever, even after years of sobriety, going against the Christian belief that God breaks every chain. I wish I had been able to tell him who the Son sets free is free indeed. Instant regret set in due to the fact he had lived in such a way to be trapped in addiction via worldly views, and I didn't have the opportunity to testify to him of a truly free sobriety through Jesus. Even Buddha said, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. If we think we are trapped in addiction, then it is so. If we believe we are free with Jesus, or just our thoughts, it is so. For me, Jesus is king." A Japanese philosopher famously quoted saying, "Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, it becomes your destiny." The Bible strongly suggests that our thoughts shape who we are, with Proverbs 23:7, "As he, a man, thinks in his heart, so he is." This verse emphasizes that our inner thoughts, emotions, and character are all connected and influenced by our overall being. The Holy Spirit in God's Word offers guidance, but each individual is responsible for choosing their thoughts and actions. So different religions and Japanese philosophers and the Bible all agree on one thing: our thoughts shape us and our future. I had tried many times before to get sober with the ways of the world, all leading to relapse in a few short months after a brief prelude of sobriety, an August of happiness. My sister even called the show intervention for me. I didn't make it past the Zoom calls. I fled Turner's Falls for sobriety as I felt I needed to quit ASAP and felt I wouldn't be able to make it, using continuously for the filming of the documentary Intervention. I felt I would die if I continued drug using. I hit it cold turkey that summer in Hadley, Massachusetts, on a farm where my dad was the farm equipment mechanic, leading to relapse after 3 short months, all failing because mostly I was told endlessly I'd fight addiction, and one could relapse even after 10 years of sobriety. I would relapse as I thought it was inevitable, and why bother fighting so hard for some worldly, weak view of recovery that was so fragile and not concrete? After multiple ephemeral sobriety moments, and now mourning my own 20 years lost in addiction to this life, time I will never get back, I finally hit my rock bottom. I then obtained a therapist at ServiceNet for active addicts, as I had seen an ad, come speak about your active addiction with a trained professional and get paid to do so, $20 a session. During my sessions there, I decided to return to the religion of my youth, Christianity, and surrendered to God, asking Him to help save me from myself and break the chains of addiction. I broke away from my plug-addicted life and detoxed cold turkey at home for 3 weeks. To get truly sober for me, I felt you have to feel the detox and fight through it. Otherwise, if it's easy, you'll be more likely to relapse. And no helper drugs. I was terrified I'd become addicted to Suboxone or methadone and refused them as I truly wanted to be free. I was able to go to Adult Teen Challenge September 2021. I was 6'3" and 140 pounds, a skeleton ghost of a man, but I strengthened myself there in my faith and spiritual reawakening with Jesus. Getting and staying sober was a hard, strenuous effort, not serendipity. The Bible states, no temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so that you can endure it. That's 1 Corinthians 10:13. God will always give you strength to stay sober if you trust in Him. After Adult Teen Challenge, I had come back to the real world. It felt like I was leaving a happy Disney cartoon and coming back to a cold, colorless, songless reality. I had to acquire a new therapist as my ServiceNet therapist only dealt with active addicts. And I was sober now. So I had to get a new therapist, and he was overwhelmed with my new glory to God and my we need to save others trapped in addiction, fire running through to my very core. He suggested I come to GCC and do addiction studies, but I needed my GED first. So that is how I signed up for classes at the Literacy Project in spring of 2023. Attending classes at the Literacy Project until June 2023 graduation was a blast, a good distraction from my fresh losses. Mourning friends and a therapist I lost not with death, but a job description. I found myself saying yes to all the volunteer work asked of me. I'd gone with Beth Byrne, a teacher at the Literacy Project, and Judith Roberts, who was she ran the place. I went to outings with them to raise awareness for alternative adult education with the message it's never too late to go back to school at any age. We went on the radio show, The Fabulous 413 in Springfield, Massachusetts, and also we went to the Comedy Cause 4 at the Academy of Music Theater in Northampton. Judith was impressed by my speech deliveries, and it helps that I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, and have a presence about me, she said. When I speak, people listen. I was a nervous wreck for that stage at the Academy of Music Theater, sweating bullets prior to going on. But I nailed the speech, and they said when I went on and started speaking, you couldn't tell I'd been nervous at all. In mentioning I was sober and returning to school, the applause was soul-shaking. Judith was so impressed, she asked me to be the class speaker at the Literacy Project graduation that June. I was honored and said yes, of course. This was the start of the dismal, dreary year to come, as I went to invite 2 close friends I had talked to in a while to my graduation, to learn after having little to no contact with them that they had sadly left this world early as they had lost their battles with addiction. Benjamin, who I had known since I was 17 years old, a lifelong friend, my first boyfriend after coming out in a super religious family, and Thomas, whom I had met while working for Ben in 2016 as Ben's PCA. We had a dating app named Grindr. It's not a dating app. And learned one day Chris had made plans to date the both of us just 12 hours apart. Instead of calling Chris out and being dramatic, we had a laugh, and it became a contest to keep our dates with Chris and see which one would win him over. I'm the Mary and you're the Rhoda, Ben would always say, quoting one of his favorite movies, Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion. Ben would later put his foot in his mouth as I had won and ended up dating Chris exclusively for a year following. But Chris and I broke up. We remained friends though since our split. To learn of both of them perishing was crushing. My two best gay friends and prior lovers just gone was indescribable. I miss them so much. During my graduation speech, I mentioned being sober for 1 year and 8 months, and I broke down, sobbing, fighting on stage to finish my speech through tears and shudders with their memory and how they did not make it to my graduation. I was despondent. Next to come was classes at Greenfield Community College. I felt a great trepidation as I would be attending while carrying all this grief. And I felt I had no time for real bereavement. And I rejected the thought or any suggestion to take time off and feel my losses. I hadn't gone to either of their funerals as Ben's family didn't want active addicts there and made it a private family-only event. As for Chris, his funeral was down south in Kentucky with his family, and I lacked the means of going. So I jumped at the opportunity at summer classes at Greenfield Community College to distract myself instead of mourning, a choice I would soon regret. But no one could foresee the losses ahead. And it would cost me more lost time in an entire semester due to a suggested medical withdrawal, but also loss of grades due to an inability to focus on my work. So I started at Greenfield Community College in the summer of 2023, almost immediately after graduation from the Literacy Project. I disassociated a lot, the loss of my two best gay friends, the end of that summer with the ever-present sting of grief I already carried. I learned Scotty and Alice had passed away as well. And it was like lemon juice splashed onto a fresh wound, bitter and seemingly reactivating previous grief with this added jab of more loss. Just a week before attending fall 2023 at GCC, I knew Katie since high school at Mohawk Trail Regional High School, another lifelong friend gone. She had dated my younger brother Josh, and at this time she was married to my best friend. And I knew he'd be in a state of immense grief and loss, losing a current lover and his wife. And if he felt the way that I had felt about losing Ben and Chris, previous lovers, I knew he needed a friend more than ever. I bought him marijuana, as he is in recovery too, and weed helps to avoid relapse. And I bought him cigarettes and soda and snacks for eating our grief. I headed to his apartment in Greenfield with gifts in hand. As I headed up the stairs to his apartment on the 3rd floor, a neighbor whom heard me coming opened his apartment door on the 2nd floor and stopped me in my tracks. He seemed annoyed and agitated, barking at me immediately, "Who are you trying to visit?" To which I replied, "Brian up on the 3rd floor. His girlfriend was cut off," as he further snapped, "Don't bother going up there. Everyone is dead." Like a knife to the heart, followed by a drop kick to the butt of the handle, burrowing it deeper into my chest. Brian died too? I turned and ran sobbing down the stairs. Days blurred until I got a messenger notification on my phone. It was Brian. I thought he was dead. I read something like, "Where are you? I expected you by now to show up and at least wish me condolences," as I was that kind of friend, always thoughtful and staying on top of things like that. Even before my losses, I explained that I had tried to visit him, but that nasty neighbor lied to me about Brian's demise. I expressed to Brian what had unfolded days prior and asked for his forgiveness. He forgave me, of course, and pleaded I come see him ASAP. I still had the gifts for him. I had thrown the entire bag into the fridge and didn't even unpack it or anything, like a makeshift shrine to my, who I thought was dead friend. I immediately grabbed the bag and flew to Brian's side, happy as hell that he was alive, to hug him and tell him I love him. I planned to mourn with him in our shared grief and my individual grief for the several other losses I then had. I ended up only staying for about an hour as I felt guilty, like I'd taken away from his God-given right to grieve, and how dare I lay my grief at his broken-hearted feet. Classes were to start in a few days that September. I figured they'd be a good distraction from my sorrow. Grief had almost swallowed me whole. I was barely keeping my head above water from the flood of tears I was drowning in, but I kept pushing forward. If it weren't for some amazing shoulders to cry on at GCC, beacons of light, I may have given up. I would have quit. Kate Walker, my advisor, kept pushing me and encouraging me and being a cheerleader for me to stay. And Judy Raper, who ran a class I took that summer at GCC with the Opioid Task Force for Students in Recovery. She's amazing and offers really good life advice. And Brian Kipoltik, he also runs the recovery meeting and was in that class. I had come so far, and relapsing or quitting was not an acceptable option. I prayed a lot, I cried a lot. I had not attended either Scotty nor Katie's funerals either, as I was spiraling into disassociation state of denial. The thought of going to their funerals also felt like a betrayal to Ben and Chris somehow, as I had not attended either of their funerals or wakes. Also, I felt I would faint or have an outburst of insane, ugly crying and wailing built up from all my losses and appear insane. So I detrimentally kept it all in and attended nothing but school. School, however, felt very surreal. I walked in a dreamlike state into every class with my head down, staring at the toes of my shoes, and would beeline to the same seat in class every day. I didn't really talk about my losses with anyone. It'd make them real. I pretended my friends were still alive and well. I did mention briefly my losses to Judy Raper in passing in the hallway, but it was like reading a grocery list, no emotion. All my friends seemed to be dying. I thought death had a 3-person rule. It's now 6 or 7 deaths. I can't keep count. She showed concern, and I believe I reassured her with a, "Nah, I'm fine." A big lie. I was not fine. Each new death reawakened the grief from the previous loss. Driving to school and hearing any song on the radio, any song one of my late friends had liked or even sang along to or even stated that they hated in the past, made me burst into tears, endangering my driving ability through blurred, teary eyes, to finish ugly crying in the parking lot on campus before class. Any thought after hearing or reading something I found funny or hilarious, and the need to tell a friend to share laughter, caused me to be hit by the realization they were gone all over again and was insurmountably heavy. I believe I wrote about that in all of my scholarship essays, winning every scholarship I ever applied for, using my grief as a winning factor, probably making the readers cry, and then they chose me as a winner probably out of pity. In my inability to face the reality of their deaths, but also at the same time being devoured by them, I shut down. I had 4 classes that semester. I got an A in one, a B+ in another, an F for addiction studies, which really hurt. That was my whole reason for going to school. And I had to drop helping relationships, which was a therapy class required for addiction studies, as I was all cried out. And I was struggling to keep on track with tasks and homework. I signed up for spring 2024 to keep pushing through and use school as a distraction, as I heavily disassociated still and was in heavy denial, not really knowing who to confide in, even though I kept praying and pleading it was all a dream, praying for the strength to not melt into a sorrow puddle of snot and tears. By spring 2024, I had won more scholarships. I had made a few friends and found laughter again, leading to disruptive outbursts of laughter and giggling in class. I hungered for laughter again and joy, ever fleeting during this time of immense sorrow. I still hadn't faced all the deaths from the previous season. I was still pretending they were still alive. I'd imagine they were all just mad at me and not talking to me. I'd send texts on my phone saying how much I missed them and loved them, and updates to my progression through school. About a month into spring of 2024, I learned another friend passed. I made sure I attended that funeral. Another lifelong friend gone. Piling onto the already crushing grief I've accumulated the past year, losing other lifelong friends. I can't really recall spring of 2024 at GCC, as AA and NA acquaintances I had met in passing at meetings had passed away during that time, re-triggering what I have come to name grief PTSD, uncontrollable wailing and ugly crying randomly throughout the day without any warning, sobbing assaults, as I had buried my grief deep and I had nowhere to go but erupt at the most inopportune times. like while driving. Also, for the world to just shovel on more grief, my partner Alex's grandmother passed away. She would mail us care packages or cat food and even money in a box or baked goods that I will never ever receive again from her. So we took a train out to New Jersey for Alex's grandmother's funeral, where I had an episode and stormed off after the funeral to be alone. I ended up getting lost in New Jersey and had to share my location to be found by Alex and his mom and dad. I came back to school to finish spring 2024 and was unable to, as I had been engulfed with grief. All these deaths seemed to kill my spirit and hope and definitely my joy. I hadn't done assignments for sociology class most of the semester. It was suggested I take a medical withdrawal for spring 2024, take the summer off, and come back for fall of 2024. On summer break, another friend passed away. She had also gotten sober, but it was too late, as liver damage is irreversible, and she succumbed to cirrhosis of the liver and passed away. Now, I still cry from time to time, remembering them the best I can. It's hard to grasp their faces when my minds try to block their deaths out, causing complicated grief, prolonging it in my inability to facing them all. I am facing them now, though, writing this. I write poems about them. I cry and the words flow, regrets, wishes, or just embracing the sadness in hopes it'll unwrap from me. The world seemingly tries to break and burn us. Make sure you only bend without the world caving in, and keep getting up. God promises that weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalms 35. Joy is seeping back into my life, even if only in little morsels. Nowhere in the Bible does it read, God took them for a reason. That's just stupid people saying that. The Bible does say, God heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalms 147, verse 3. And rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. Romans 12:15. This verse specifically calls for empathy, to share the emotion of the one who is in bereavement, or in rare cases, joy. There are days still I cannot muster the strength to get up and do anything. I leave laundry and dishes undone, the floor left unvacuumed, unswept, unmopped, homework assignments undone. It feels like a dark cloud hovers ever present, sometimes just above me, other times smothering me and engulfing me completely. I try not to let it show on my sorrow-consumed days. I have some poems if you want me to read those. I wrote them, like I said, in a state of crying, and the words flowed. So now when I read them, they tend to spark that same emotion, and I'll try not to cry while reading them. This poem is called 12 Gone. I'm 42 and feel 80 inside. Buried 12 friends, watched a dozen lives slide. Not to time, not to war, not some grand old affliction, but to pills and needles, to silent addiction. We used to dream loud, now I whisper their names. Some die quick, some slow, but the hurt's just the same. I've seen too many candles drip wax on cold stone, and too many nights where I feel all alone. We laughed like the world couldn't burn us down. Now I'm standing in the ashes on unfamiliar ground. 12 shadows follow with every step I take. 12 voices echo in the sobbing I make. They called it a choice, said they could have said no. But when pain wraps tight, there's nowhere to go. And me I hid, I heard of their fall. No one to relate, too late to call. I send them texts on my phone, unread, unanswered, truly all alone. And it hurts in a way I cannot say. Like time stopped cold on the worst king day. I'm too young to be this full of ghosts, too numb to be missing them the most, and the world moves on like nothing is broken, while I bleed through poems and half-spoken tokens. So if you hear me now, feel the weight in my chest. It's 12 souls deep, and I'm trying my best to carry their names, to remember them all, as I try not to get dragged down by their final downfall. And this one's called Forever. Addiction stole you piece by piece and left me here with no release. I never got to say goodbye. No final hug, no last I'll try. The words unsaid, the touch unknown. Now leave me here so all alone. I wish I'd known, I wish I'd stayed, to help you fight, to help you trade. The silence for a hopeful cry, the shadows for a bright blue sky. I wish I'd known, I wish I'd seen, the hurt you hid, the in-between. But addiction stole you, took you away, and left me lost in this endless gray. You were the friend who knew my heart, the one who'd never drift apart. But now you're gone and I remain with nothing but this quiet pain. And every dawn and every night, I search for you, but there's no light. I'll carry you, though you've slipped from view, a part of me, forever you. 'Cause you're still with me deep inside, and every tear I cannot hide. You live in me, though you are gone, a friend, a love, forever on. And this one's called Victorious. Death is cruel, so stark, so sad. Why must it hurt this deep, this bad? Wishing I could rewind the past, hold you tighter, make moments last. Say I love you one more time, undo regrets that haunt my mind. Maybe I could have stopped the fall, answered better when you called. Said you matter, please don't go. Try to save you, wish you'd know. But now you're gone, it isn't fair, and silence lingers in the air. I should have done more, kicked in the door on that last day, begged, implored, to keep you here, to change your fate. Instead I'm left to bear this weight. We suffer life, but now I find I suffer more with you behind. Still I stay strong in my sobriety, lost but walking through society. Each day's a little dimmer gray, but I get up anyway. It's all mundane, a quiet war, but joy, they say, will come once more. That's God's promise in the storm, a sunrise soft, a spirit warm. You can't outrun grief or the seasons. They say everything has its reasons, but if I'm honest, it's hard to see the reason you were ripped from me. I like to think you smile at night from the moon in gentle light, while I lie weeping in my bed or fight the dread inside my head. I speak to you in silent prayer, wishing you'd somehow appear. Just one more moment eye to eye to say I love you and not goodbye. To hold you close a little longer. They say that grief can make you stronger, but some days strong just isn't enough, yet still I stand, I won't give up. I carry on with pain and truth and walk this road in honor of you. Scarred but steady, brave and furious, through the fire I rise victorious. And this one's called Everyone's Gone. How do you let your light still shine when 12 dear friends cross life's thin line? 12 souls from my tight-knit space, the only ones who knew my face. Now silence wraps me thick and deep, loneliness I cannot keep. My light once bright begins to fade, a flicker lost in evening shade. The lamp lies shattered on the floor, no glow, no warmth, just evermore. I dream someday it might behold, like pottery mended, lined with gold. They fix the cracks with tender grace and make them part of beauty's face. So I take gold thread with trembling hand to stitch the heart I can barely stand. Gold threads are fragile, easily break, can't see through tears and my hands shake. A lyric sung, a laugh once shared, and all the light is stripped and bared. The pieces fall like tears again, the grief, the loss, the silent pain. I tried to hold what time has spun, but I'm alone now, everyone's gone. Still trying to relight what's lost, to shine despite the heavy cost. A Soul in Sorrow is the next one. The days stretch long, a binding thread. Grief whispers softly, cold and dead. I rise, I work, I ache, I bleed, a hollow shell devoid of need. Sorrow presses like an iron fist, a silent scream that can't resist. It doesn't shout, it doesn't burn, it twists the heart and leaves no turn. I wear a mask that cracks and breaks, a fragile smile the world forsakes. Inside me a storm too vast to name, a trembling soul that cannot claim. The world moves on with ruthless pace. I'm just a shadow out of place. Each step is heavy, lost and sure, a broken heart too scarred to cure. I yearn to scream, but silence stays. I numb the ache in endless ways. Grief speaks in whispers, sorrow deep, and in its grasp I cannot sleep. I carry this weight, unseen, unheard, a hollow echo, a fractured word. The world keeps turning, but I remain, a soul in sorrow, bound in pain. And this one is a play on my faith, surprise. It's called He Must Be Here. They say God is near the brokenhearted. He must be sitting here in this room, sitting close right next to me, while I'm consumed in all my gloom. I feel the warmth of His great love. He leads me by still waters deep. My sorrow slowly drifts away, and joy begins to gently seep. Tomorrow joy will come like a dove, beautiful, graceful, peacefully. God can mend a shattered heart. He promises never to part from me. Like china mended brightly with gold, more stunning than it was before, He makes me whole through every crack, with love that heals me at the core. Empathy and compassion bloom, the gifts He's kindly given me, until the day I leave this world and rise to dwell eternally. So let the tears come falling down, let sorrow furrow into frown, but soon your frown will fade away, a smile will blaze and light the day. I'll shine my light so pure and bright, it'll brighten even the darkest night. For some will be a chandelier, to others a little nightlight. And then, yeah. And this is just a poem I wrote on hopes and dreams, and I just submitted it because it was just another poem. I really wanted an A. In silent hours where shadows creep and hearts grow heavy, lost in sleep, a whisper stirs within the soul, a dream, a spark, a silent goal. It rises high beyond the skies, beyond the doubt in weary eyes, a fragile thread of silver light that guides us through the longest night. Hope is a fire we kindle small that keeps us warm when sorrow calls. It sings in cracks of broken ground where miracles are often found. For even stars must fight the dark to leave their mark a blazing arc, and dreams of born in quiet grace can move the earth, can shift all space. So hold them close when all feels lost. They're worth the climb, they bear the cost. For in the hush of night's deep seams, we rise reborn on wings of dreams. And then I wanted like a happy poem. So I wrote a poem on how I feel God's love saves me time and time again. And I call this one His Reign of Love. He calms the storms within my heart and vows that we will never part. He says, I love you, true and free, forever love is what will be. He doesn't lie or steal or cheat, a cool breeze in the summer heat. My refuge from a world unkind, He brings me peace, He stills my mind. My soul once bound now feels released, in His embrace my fears have ceased. Joy overflows, my spirit sings, as love pours down in gentle streams. It puddles deep around my feet, I splash and laugh in rain so sweet. The rain of love from skies above, a gift of grace, a flood of love. No need to run, no need to hide, it lives within, it dwells inside. I'm wrapped in grace, a soft embrace, until I see His shining face. And when I leave this world behind, I'll live forever in your mind, a cherished memory held tight, His words of love, a guiding light. And this one I wrote on the last day of school, and then I emailed it to my professor. I said, I want to include this. I got home from school and fell asleep on the couch, and I had a dream I was on a beach and my 12 friends were around me. And I woke up crying, and then this just came. They say songbirds sing in the early morning where the air is full of moisture to better carry their songs far and wide. Maybe it's the same with sorrow. I imagine it's like a bird song inside us, and it causes us to cry, to be carried by moisture to the other side, to be better heard from our lost loved ones so they can hear our sorrow bird song far and wide. As fall fades to winter and winter to spring, the only thing guaranteed in nature is change, and it is so in life. Keep your eyes on something, or you may spin recklessly, but God first above everything. Joy comes in the morning after a night of weeping. So let your sorrow sing, and eventually your heartache will seep away like water to sand, still there but deep.
Fiend.